I'm Charles Dennis. This is Paid to Dream, and my guest today is the wonderful Salome Jens.
Well, thank you.
I can.
Nice to know I'm wonderful.
I can put. There's all sorts of adjectives that one can put in for you, but that was the one that leapt to mind.
Okay.
I first met you about 20 years ago when my friend Paula Prentice asked me to do a scene from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf for your class with her.
Uh-huh.
And I know that she's a great pal and
yes.
student, and you've done several things. I think last year or 2 years ago I saw a production of Majority of One that you had directed her in.
That's right. Yeah, we did first of all a play at the Tiffany some time back, and
whenever I use the powder room at the house, I see that poster framed.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So that's one of the things that we did, and then Paula, when I direct many times or several times, I've been able to use her, and she's just such a wonderful actress, and so incredibly unique. I love working with her. So that when and will come to me every once in a while when she's working on something, because it's an opportunity to take it into a class situation where she can kind of work with the students or with to get herself prepared. I always admire her ability to be able to be humble enough to go to work. She loves to work, and she knows how to go to work, and so she'll come into my class and maybe be there for a month or two as she prepares and, do some work, and then kind of come in and out. So she's kind of family that way.
I directed her in a film 6 years ago, and Ross was in it, and Prentice was also in it. But Paula kept me waiting up until about 2 days before shooting, and then Ross said she's going to do it. And she was just wonderful. It was just such a joy, and it's such a joy to see her on screen again. But we've had her on stage now for many, many years, and she's just, I find her extraordinary every time I see her, because it's like an uncapped wire. It's just this life force that is going on.
Yes, and very unique. She has a very unique take on things, and it's undeniable because it comes from a very real place. She has really, researched it in such a way that it's a real personal vision, and it's always a joy because it surprises you. It's not ordinary. It's an extraordinary imagination.
Yeah, it's just. I saw her. I don't know if you ever saw that thing that Grover Dale directed. It was at some little place in Burbank about people who were incest survivors. It was oh my God, she was just riveting.
I missed that.
Oh,
yeah.
She had a little doll that she clutched on that stage,
and
you just couldn't take your eyes off her. Her performance was amazing.
Yes, I'm sure.
Now, I read a quote that you supposedly gave that said, "The only time I can imagine contemplating suicide would be if I was told I had to go back and live in Milwaukee forever." Do you remember everything?
I did said something like that. I said the only time I contemplate suicide if I was stuck in Milwaukee.
How bad was it?
Well, I was born there, and so therefore, it's not that it was that bad. It's just that as I was a young actress and coming up and a young artist in the Midwest, and I think a lot of Midwest people know that they have got to move on, but certainly at that point there was very little happening in Milwaukee that would keep an actress there. I think they had one or two companies, but meantime, certainly where I wanted to be was where it was happening. I wanted to be, and at the time I said that, I was doing Moon for This Begotten that we had done at Circle in the Square in New York, and I was in Chicago, and the Milwaukee Journal came to interview me and said, well, how do you feel about, being, from Milwaukee? And I just said, well, if I hadn't left Milwaukee, I would never have had the career that I had, because it certainly was not going to happen in Milwaukee.
No.
So
I'm sure Spencer Tracy felt the same way.
Of course, well, all of us who got out of the Midwest and came west and east, where do you go if you're in the theater and if you're an artist? You certainly go where it's happening. And certainly New York, for me, my first 18 years were spent in New York, and I was on Broadway, off Broadway, going back and forth, doing television and films. That could never have happened if I stayed in Milwaukee.
No.
No.
No. No.
So I would have committed suicide because I don't know what I would have done, because I had this lust for life. I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to be exposed to all the great artists. I went to work with Martha Graham, and I wanted to get to Lee Strasberg, and I got to the Actors Studio, and as I say, and Jose Quintero, I was working with La Creme de la Creme, and Kazan, I was at Lincoln Center, working with Arthur Miller, and I've had an extraordinary career now. That would never have happened in Milwaukee.
You did fine, kid. You did fine. You worked with Jason Robards Jr. and Sr. in the same play.
You bet, in Disenchanted. You bet.
Tell me, what was it like, the relationship between father and son in that play?
Well, he loved his father, and his father was, aging, but he adored him, and he made much of him. Their relationship was very, very sweet. It was very loving, and Jason was really happy to have his father there. I had the feeling that probably he never got to know his father because his father was always working or away from the family. So that there was something about having his father at this time in his life, having his father there, seemed to make Jason very happy. He spent a lot of time with him, and we were on the road. I can remember Jason, really being with him and sitting at his feet and listening to his stories, and so it was a lovely relationship.
I think the delineation between how old you are is that you remember when he was Jason Robards Jr., and then suddenly, somewhere along the line, the junior stopped being junior. He was the only Jason Robards.
Yeah.
But that was a very interesting. I had read the book. I never got to see the play, and Bud Schulberg wrote that with someone else, so he adapted it.
Harvey Bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two of them collaborated on that.
And it's never revived. We never see it done anywhere else.
Well, it's a play that really was. We changed directors in midstream, and it was a play that really didn't quite work. It is done now and again because I hear people doing it, so it is done now and again, but it's not a play that really works. It's not a major play, but it's certainly fun to be with the Fitzgeralds.
And then you did A Far Country, which I remember when I was a kid living in Toronto. Once a month I would go to this tiny little magazine store on Eglinton Avenue called E. Wilson, and there was this old lady who ran it, and I said, "Is the theater arts in yet?" "Not yet," she, and they would have a play, and I remember reading A Far Country 5-6 times. I would read those plays every month, and it was a good play.
Yes, and it had a moderate success on Broadway.
Stephen Hill, Kim Stanley, and you.
Yeah, and Steve was wonderful, and Kim, of course, was, and Sam Waterston. There were and Lily Darvish. It was a wonderful cast.
Yeah,
and it was, as I say, a moderate success. I think it ran for about 6 months.
And then you're in the last Sidney Kingsley play, which I've always wanted to talk to somebody about because, again, as a kid, reading Dead End and those epic plays of his with huge casts that we never get to see anymore, and that was the last play that he did, and he directed it too. Yes,
he did.
What was that like? Yeah, Nightlife.
Yeah, well, he directed. He's a funny man. He was really very interesting. He directed. He had totally directed it before we got into rehearsal. In other words, he had a set with little miniature people, and he had totally staged it. And totally had it directed. He totally manipulated us according to his vision. We weren't given a lot of leeway about how that was going to work. I loved doing it. I had this crazy. I played this Hollywood star who tried to commit suicide. So there I'm in my gold Omega and doing a twist with Carol Lawrence at the the end of the first act that just drove everybody, the whole town, crazy because they thought, two women dancing together, she's a lesbian. And all that. It was just really, it was so outrageous. but it was really fun and shocking, and I loved the way I looked. I had this beautiful gold lame thing, and with long cigarette holder, and sitting around, lounging around, half blasted with alcohol, and being, essentially a virago, and it was fun. I mean, I had a wonderful time. But
it didn't last very long.
No, it didn't. It was not a success.
And I think that was his last play.
I think it was. Yeah, I do think it was. He was getting on at that time, and somehow he should never have directed it. I think the play could have been far more interesting had he allowed someone else to direct it, because it was, as I say, he was working from totally from his ideas, and he didn't allow anything to happen, and it could have. It was also a play that might have been shocking to most people at that time. It's stunning where we've come, and since I've been there as a young actress, because something like that today would be nothing.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was shocking, and everybody was horrified. I remember I did a play of Oliver Haley's called First One to Sleep Whistle, and I was in a slip, and I had a bed scene with my daughter, who was, probably about 10 or 12, and a man, her boyfriend goes, they all three go to bed together, and the line is, First One to Sleep Whistle. Well, they were so horrified that I was in bed with a man and my daughter in a slip. I mean, it was like, oh my God, this is sacrilegious.
Oliver Haley, who had so many chances up to bat and never had a hit. He's such a good writer too, and it just
he was wonderful. I really have to thank Oliver. He gave me my job, or saw to it I got hired for the television show he did, Mary Hartman.
Oh, of course he did. He did have a hit, but it wasn't on the stage.
Yeah, that was a big hit. Absolutely, and my part would not have happened had not Oliver, seen to it that I got seen by Norman Lear. So I have to thank him for that. And I loved working with him. He was a funny, wonderful man. He too had this macabre sense of humor, and there's something so wonderfully devilish and imaginative about Oliver. So, yeah, he was special.
And then that great enterprise, the would-be National Theater of America, the first Lincoln Center Company.
That's right.
After the fall, and but for whom Charlie.
Right.
And Ralph Meeker.
That's right. I married him.
Well, I remember there was another couple that came out of that first season too. My dear friends Diane and Michael Strauss.
I married him long before the first season.
Oh, so you guys were married when you went into?
No, we
season?
met doing Anna Christie at Playhouse in the Park with Luther Adler. So we had met before, and then
Luther Adler was your father?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's where we had met originally.
So you were already a couple when you went into Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
They just released this fantastic Blu-ray of Kiss Me Deadly.
Yes, isn't it wonderful?
And seeing him again, just really healthy looking, and it was an amazing career for a while with him. It just that he replaced Brando in Streetcar. He was the original Hal in Picnic.
Yeah. Mr. Roberts.
I didn't realize he was Mannion. He was all the guys that were in Mr. Roberts, the Harvey Lembeck and Stephen Hill. It was just extraordinary.
Yeah. Right.
It's hard to look at the theater today, and there's nothing comparable. There's nothing, there's the number of plays that were on in a season.
Yes, it was a very exciting time, and somehow, in a way, I feel like I was in the New York theater at the most exciting time, because I also got to do all these incredible avant-garde plays. The first Ionesco play, and the first Genet play, The Balcony, which was, it was really an exciting time in New York.
Oh, and I mean those women with Nancy Marchand and Sylvia Miles and Grayson Hall, all of you in The Balcony.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
that was exciting, and absolutely Jose. I mean, Quintero was absolutely one of the most exciting directors I have ever had the pleasure to know. I feel so privileged to have been, with him.
And Horse Girl, that thing that you did.
Yeah, Help the Balcony.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. I have a question about After the Fall. Ralph Meeker played a character who was based on Elia Kazan.
Yeah.
In theory. And
yeah.
and was it, I mean, was there this strange undercurrent rehearsing it, knowing that he's being directed by Kazan in a part that's sort of condemning Kazan?
But by the way Ralph played it, which is why Gadge cast him, is you liked him. There's something about Ralph, his vulnerability, and that's why Gadge cast him, because he was really looking to not have that character be a heavy.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ralph, no matter what, there's a vulnerability about Ralph that he was never a heavy.
No.
He was, a wonderful heavy because he was never heavy. You cared about him.
There was that guy from the Midwest, I suppose that was the attraction, the two of you, these people from the Midwest who found each other.
Yeah, well, he was 14 years older than I, so which was very difficult, and of course, the problem with Ralph was that the drinking was the same with Jason and all those guys. I mean, they all were very, very heavy drinkers, and I think that finally it got to them, and certainly got to Ralph.
I did an interview with Chris Plummer a couple of years ago, and we talked about drinking and what was the deal? And it's this thing, this was part of the rite of passage of an
ritual,
actor.
Yeah,
that you have to be a drinker. You have to do this.
No, well, I think that what happened is, when the habit was, after theater, you would go for coffee? Forget it. You take a drink.
I know.
And you're there till 4 a.m, and then you don't have to get up until 10 or 11, and then you start all over again. And so, in other words, and it's a ritual, and what we know is that these guys, and also anybody who's attracted to being in this business is has ego problems, or certainly has self-worth problems, and the disease of alcoholism is a lack of self-worth. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You drink, and it was a disease of our time. It continues to be the disease of our time, because now it's with the kids, it's all cross addiction. Everybody's into drugs as well, so they just burn out faster. I've got 30 years of sobriety now. Certainly, I was, I went along with them until I really was able, for some miraculous reason, able to pull myself out of that. But it certainly was a part of my life for, the first part of my career. Everybody did it. I mean, and I'm very grateful that somehow, that I was young enough, because that group, that 14 years made a big difference, because AA had not caught on, and it was a sin if you couldn't control your drinking. So nobody talked about it. It was under the table, and it was never brought into the open. Now, we know that it is a disease. We accept it as treatable. But at that time, Ralph didn't believe it was treatable. He didn't believe he had a problem, because he could stop for 2 weeks. Alcohol. If you're an alcoholic, you drink all the time. That's not true. So, it was a time when we did not yet know how to deal with this as a disease. It was a moral issue, and it isn't. It's physical. So they really suffered with it, and some of us were able to survive and got help.
And that was of good for you. It's a tough one. It really
I
is.
feel very grateful for that. Yeah, because if I would have died when I was ready to die from the disease, I would have missed the best part of my life. So it's amazing, and as I say, I feel because I teach at UCLA, and I have my private classes, and I'm dealing with these young people, and boy, I get them early. I just say, come on, I know what it is, and I know what to do, and I feel so grateful to be able to lead people in the right direction, so that they don't have to go through what we went through. But as I say, what's going on now is that everybody's, succumbing at a much earlier age because they're cross-addicted. And most of the AA rooms are filled with young people, not old people. They're all young kids, 20s and 30s.
Well, at least it's out there now. It's not hidden away, and it's like when the house my parents lived in when they were first married was next to the old folks' home, and the wagon would come at night to bring the old people because it was it was a scandal that you sent them away in the daytime.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And it's not a moral issue. It is physical.
No, exactly.
And emotional. That has to be handled.
Now, another play that you were in, well ahead of its time for theme, etc., was A Patriot for Me, with Maximilian Schell and Dennis King. What are your memories of that?
Well, I was a replacement. What was her name? Anyway, I had to go in 2 weeks.
Oh.
And it was, certainly Merrick was going to produce this extraordinary, he was trying to really make a whole theater happen out of that. And he spent, I think $1 million on that production, and at that time that was extraordinary. But it was a colossal failure. It did not, I think we were closed in several nights. We did go out of town, but it just never worked. Here again, it was a homosexual theme, and I think that probably they really didn't want to deal. Peter Glenville just really very Englishified it, so that it was very proper, and it wasn't really a love affair, and so that you really didn't understand it. And Max didn't want to go there because I'm sure he thought people would think that he's gay, and so they're kind of protecting themselves. So it was never really dealt with, and I'm playing this Contessa, and of course I had beautiful clothes, I remember that, and certainly, I had a wonderful time doing it. However, it was very disappointing in the sense that it was going to be it was going to revolutionize the way they were going to do, Merrick was going to do theater, he was going to make a lot of money on this, and he would move ahead with, more productions, but he got really, he got hurt with that one. And
did you have any dealings with Merrick personally?
No, only that he liked me.
Oh, good. So you were all right, because I just finished reading this biography of him, and God, he was terrifying. His
oh no. If he liked you, he was wonderful.
And that was it.
I never got that he was terrifying.
Interesting.
No.
And your final Broadway appearance was Mary Stuart.
Or
final
is that
for
my
now.
Final?
Well, that's what's listed there. If you've done something since then.
Yeah. Well, I did Mary Stuart at the Lincoln Center.
And Tartuffe. Right.
And no, I did. See, that was two different places. Tartuffe I did at Lincoln Center downtown with Kazan, and when we were, downtown. Then Jules Irving took over the Uptown Theater, and I did two productions there. I did Right Across Lake Constance, and I did Mary Stuart with Nan Marchand.
Right. The wonderful. Talk about wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
you did and you did a couple of plays with her.
Well, she was in The Balcony as well.
Right. And Aileen McMahon was in Mary Stuart, too.
Yeah, she played the maid. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Can you tell us a little about the Anne Sexton play that you have done?
Well, certainly I've taken that all over the country. It's something I created.
And it's called About Anne, correct?
About Anne, yeah. I won the San Francisco Critics Award with that, and I won the awards here with that. It probably is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life, in the sense of it's a character that I put together, and in a very short time after being introduced to it and doing a few poems at the Met, and then I somehow fell in love with Anne and what she was saying, and because she was a confessional poet, it could translate to the stage because they're events and they're real, and because she wrote from that confessional place. So I have taken that about Anne all over the world. I just did it last year in Italy. Took it to Florence, and I did it last season at Lonnie Chapman's theater, and got brought some money in for them. They were able to pay their taxes on the building as a result of my benefit performance for them.
Well,
so it's
great.
Something I've got in my back pocket. I can instant acting.
Well, it's a wonderful thing for an actor to have a show like that.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, Anthony Zerbe, and Roscoe Lee Brown, Anthony has a company called Poetry in Motion, and so that he somehow has also kind of fostered my About Anne with his company. So we do, every once in a while we go out to the universities and places where they need something like that, and so he travels with Cummings, and when Roscoe Lee Brown was alive, the two of them toured the schools and with their black and white poets. They were very successful at that, and now Anthony does E.E. Cummings, and he, as they say, has a company where he sends us around, and it is something that I get the opportunity to do every now and again. As they say, did it again just last year in Florence, which was really interesting to see what the Italians did with her, because they had translated her and knew her work, and they were amazed at what I did because they thought of her as a depressed suicide, and I don't play her that way. I play her as a very alive and in the world woman who went to the top, and she did. So it's a fun thing to have in my repertoire.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Angel Baby is now available on DVD at last. Warner's has put it out.
Well, finally.
Yeah.
They were also afraid of that movie. When it was done, the Burt Lancaster movie about
Elmer Gantry, yeah.
Yeah, they were going for the awards. They bought it up and wouldn't release it because our film was better.
It was the same year?
Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I mean, we had wonderful people, Joni Blondell and
Mercedes
McCambridge and Henry Jones. I mean, by God, it was a wonderful cast. So
and George Hamilton rose to the occasion.
Oh, yeah, he did. And Burt Reynolds, it was his first movie.
That's right. Tell us a little about it.
Well, I was doing The Balcony at the time, and the director was at that point Hubert Cornfield, and he saw, The Balcony and came and got me and said, I've got to take you to meet my producer. He says, a star is born. He's running down the streets of Bleecker Street saying, I found her. So anyway, I went to meet the producer, and the producer obviously felt that he was right, and so I got that part, and we went to Florida, and Wexler was, what's his name, the cameraman?
Haskell Wexler?
Haskell. Yeah, he didn't have his union credentials, but he certainly was there working on it, and then Paul Wynkost took over because they fired Hubert because he evidently would put a camera in underground, and they felt that it was a waste of a lot of money, and so they got rid of him. They didn't think that he could pull it off. But then Paul Wexler came in and completed it, and we ran into a lot of weather, and they pulled up, and we came back here to Los Angeles and finished it. And as I say, the tragedy is Frank Woods, who was the producer, really was heartbroken because they did not allow that film to get released.
Oh, that's so sad. And I remember it had great reviews when it came out.
Well, it's a nice little film. It's a very touching little film, and it's very real because we filmed it where the people are. We were right down with the people in Georgia. And it was very touching. It was a very touching little movie, actually.
Well, it's available. If anybody wants to see it, they just go to Warner Brothers' website, and they can order it, and it's there now.
Well, very good to know.
Yeah. And also one of my favorites that you're in, of course, is John Frankenheimer's Seconds.
Oh,
it
yeah.
is still so chilling. This is a movie that has not aged a bit. And talk about wonderful act. I mean, it was, Rock's best performance.
It sure was.
Will Geer is so chilling, and John Randolph, who is Rock before he becomes Rock, and it just and that moment when he thinks he's found love and everything, and realizes that you and all these people in that community are the Reborns, or whatever the name. What was that name? I can't remember what they. Well, the Seconds, obviously, but it was that everybody was much older than he thought. He'd found a new second life, and it's just
my character wasn't. My character worked for the organization, but
that's right. You were.
She wasn't a reborn. She wasn't a second. She worked for the organization, and and she did fall in love with him, and that was unfortunate.
And Louis Carlino wrote that script, I think.
John Louis Carlino.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful film. Wonderful career, wonderful woman. Thank you so much, Salome.
Well, you're welcome. I
enjoyed it too, and I look forward to seeing you at the studio on Monday.
Okay. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Okay, love. Right. Bye-bye.